Hello and welcome to Warframe. My name's Todd, also known as Major Mech, and this is of course Warframe. Last time we left off completing a couple missions heading towards effectively the Sedina and Eris junctions. You might have noticed by looking at navigation that we were just looking at a second ago, the Warframe Anniversary event has begun. So all the Gift of the Lotus stolen quests are up and running. You can also note that when you've logged in, of course, during the event, you've gotten two mails, this would be the first one, and this being the second. You can, of course, pause the video if you need to read that more in depth. We also got a Noggle and a Lisette skin to begin with. So I've decided to put the little Noggle right there, and I've already equipped our Lisette skin, so we'll show that off. We'll go into our landing craft and customize landing craft. And there's our landing craft from here on out. I think it looks pretty cool. I quite like that Lisette skin actually, a lot. But in this part I've decided that instead of progressing, we're going to be doing these Gift of the Lotus, because for each of the Gift of the Lotus missions, you notice that there are certain things you get. You get a Sandana, you get a Dakara Dex Cerberus, you get the Excalibur Dex Skin, and you get the Dex Ferris. Now, three of those are weapons. The Dex Dakara, Dex Cerberus, and Dex Ferris, and each of those weapons gives you a weapon slot. Plus a very nice weapon, actually, that we'll be using. But while we're doing those missions, we'll actually be using our new Warframe, so we'll be testing him out. Good buddy Loki. So Loki is a stealth-based Warframe. Let's see, we don't have an extra loadout slot for him, so I guess we'll replace Volt for the time being. We'll rename this. Later on, we'll probably get another loadout slot as we go up in rank. But we're not going to worry about that too much right now. We're just going to be switching over to Loki. We equipping our Vectis, because we do want to be able to do at least some damage. Equipping our Vasto, and last but not least, our Orthos. You might have noticed, of course, that we've gone up in ranks. I did a little bit in between, I believe, since last part. Let's change our Loki a little bit. I think we can go with the noble animation style, and we'll use my favorite setup. So we'll go black, or very, very dark brown, red, white, gold. Do we want gold or do we want silver? We'll go with silver, actually. And last but not least, blue as our energy killer. There's our Loki. He looks pretty good. Yeah, and that should do. Oh, and we also want to change over to Carrier instead of Taxon, so we can get some extra experience. So as we're using Loki, you'll kind of see his basic loadout scheme. We want to actually, we just want to auto-install mods here. So we're just gonna auto-install all the mods. Not a lot we can equip there, but that's kind of to be expected. We do need a different aura at some point, but we'll worry about that as it comes. Would also benefit us to install an Orokin reactor, actually. Which, you know what, I'm going to actually do that. We have an extra one, we might as well use it. So we'll install, oops, I keep pressing mods, because I think that's going to auto-install my mods, but it's not. There we go. We'll auto-install, so we got Intensify. Do I want Intensify, or would I prefer a little bit of survivability here? I think I might prefer the survivability over Intensify. It's not going to be massively helpful to us, but it will be a little bit more helpful than anything else we can do. So we won't be using Loki for too much, but we're going to be trying to use him in these missions here, so we can give him at least a little bit of head start. Alright, so the first one is for the Dex Ferris. All of them are level 10 to 15, so they all should be relatively easy. None of them should give us too many problems. I think we should be able to complete them in the course of just this mission alone, but we'll see as things go along. Or this episode, that is. Because I can see that 4 missions might take us a little bit longer than I was planning. Alright, so Loki's pretty self-explanatory, how he's used. Nothing massive. For these Dex missions, of course, we only have access to certain weapons. Um, Specifically for the weapon we're using, we've got our Vasta, or our secondary. I don't even think we have, we don't even have a melee weapon, so if you're expecting a melee weapon, pretty much don't. So we just got our secondary, and we'll be just fine with just that. So you might notice that Loki does have an ability right off the bat, and of course that is our decoy, which we can throw down. Decoy is effectively a kind of a way for enemies to not hit us. You might notice that Loki's health and shields are not great. That's to kind of be expected, but thanks to decoy, he doesn't really need lots of health and shields. His decoy effectively takes all the damage for him, because it effectively draws fire from enemies. Enemies will focus on the decoy first, rather than focusing on you. Only downside being, of course, that we don't have a lot of duration right now, so our decoy doesn't last very long. But that will be remedied later on as we get better mods and we level up our Loki here. Effectively, as a Loki, you kind of just want to run into a situation and throw down your decoy is the first thing you do. That will kind of help prevent you from taking any damage. Later on, we'll get invisibility, of course, which will help us even more. Once we have invisibility, getting hit pretty much is a non-thing as Loki, as long as you know how to avoid AoE damage or area of effect damage. But yeah, that is pretty much Loki, at least for the moment, until we level him up a little bit, which we should be able to with these coming missions.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
Alright, so we got level 2. I think we should be at least level like 5, I think, by the time we're done, at the very least. At least that's what I'm hoping. But we're blazing on through. That was the first mission. That will get us our Dex Furious. And I'll be happy to have the Dex Furious, as the Dex Furious is a very nice weapon overall.
Ordis has received messages for the operator.
Leave this squad.
No, I have not read them.
So there's our Dex Furious. You can read the message here. As I stated previously, our Dex Furious is... Oh, hold on one moment. I just realized we also want to turn off visible while holstered. So I'll show off that Dex Furious here in just a second. Okay. Alright, so the Dex Furious is a fantastic weapon. You can see its stats right here. It has really, really good status. It has okay critical chance, probably a little bit above average, and fine critical multiplier. Its damage is low, but that's pretty much inconsequential because of the fact that it fires so quickly. Its fire rate, as you can see, is 20. So you can fire 20 shots in the span of a second, meaning that you're pretty much going to status your enemy to death very quickly. There's a very similar weapon to this, known as the AK Stiletto Prime, which a lot of people use kind of in its place. When we're swapping weapons, we'll probably swap to the Dex Furious, as the Dex Furious is just a fantastic weapon to have. But also, of course, it does add another weapon slot, so that's nice to have as well. Oh, and I should also note that the Dex Furious does come with an Orokin Catalyst installed already, so we don't have to worry about adding that in. Let's go do the Dex Sandana. That should give us a very nice Sandana indeed.
Another mission.
That will be the first Sandana that I think we'll have gotten our hands on, so that'll be kind of nice. I don't know. I didn't read the specifications of this mission, so I'm not sure which weapon we'll have for this. I think all of the Anniversary missions, you're restricted to one type of weapon, either your primary, your secondary, or your melee weapon. I'm not sure which one we'll be restricted to in this mission. You can see, of course, that as we're using the Loki Warframe, that even though he's weak in the areas of health and like defenses, that doesn't necessarily make him weak overall, of course. His abilities really make up for his lack of defensive, capabilities. So you don't really need health and shields. This is taking a really long time, this loading screen. I might just cut this out. what is going on here? Oh, it did go through. I guess maybe not. Sometimes that happens. So it looks like we're regulated just to our polearm. That's kind of a shame. I really wish it was our primary, but that's how it goes sometimes. Let's see if we can't find something to kill. I think our latency might be a little bit high here. No, that doesn't look like it, actually. But it does look like that they're killing a lot of the enemies. It looks like we have a Sarin in our group. Sarin tends to disease and kind of destroy enemies
Life
from afar.
support on the way.
There we go. Thankfully, these enemies, of course, as I stated previously, aren't very high level, so we're not really super worried about getting destroyed by them, as we would be with some of the higher level enemies we could run across. Oh, fantastic. So we've unlocked our ability we were waiting for, invisibility. So, of course, with the combination of throwing down your decoy and going invisible, Loki's near immortal. Of course, you can still be hit by attacks that are area of effect that hit like large areas, such as explosions from bombards, napalms, flamethrowers, things like that. But while invisible, enemies cannot really target you.
Support capsule is now available.
So any sort of situation that would have an enemy target you or look specifically at you, such as attacking you directly, they cannot do, meaning that you're very hard to kill as long as you can avoid any sort of area attack. The one downside, of course, to our Loki currently is that he does not have lots of duration, as I stated previously. If you add a lot of duration onto your Warframe, especially a Warframe like Loki, he becomes monstrously more powerful, as your invisibility can last a good amount of time. And every extra second you get, of course, means that you'll be alive a little bit longer. You might notice, of course, that the major downsides to Loki being that he is heavily dependent on energy, similar to Volt. So without any energy gain, it becomes much harder to stay alive. This, of course, as I stated, is remedied later in the game by certain abilities we get. The Zen rank focus tree being the main one. Later on, we can also, by chance, get an aura, which will help us out with that, and help us regenerate energy. But that will be for a later time. For now, we just gotta focus on staying alive for the next 7 minutes. That should be relatively easy for us. Oh man, hitting this little turret
Life
without
support
a
incoming.
weapon to hit it. Oh, I almost killed it there. There we go. Now it won't be a problem for us. Loki's ranked up to rank 4, which is good. Of course, right now our invisibility doesn't last very long, even just at baseline, because it's not anywhere near maximum rank. At maximum rank, it does last an okay amount of time, just normally, even without mods. So that flame attack there from the, what was it, the arson extremist enemies, those, that would be what I would consider an AoE attack, or an area of effect attack. On higher levels, that will just destroy you as a Loki if you don't have any defensive mods. So, even though it's great to run Loki without defensive mods and you don't necessarily need them, it is good to have them
Life support has arrived.
for those situations where you will inevitably be hit. In Warframe, there's kind of a slight motto that a lot of modders have, and that's that you will be hit no matter what. So don't think that you can get away even with invisibility without being hit at all. Something will be able to hit you eventually. The major thing is being able to survive that one hit that does. Or mitigating most hits so they don't hit you. It should also be noted that Loki's decoy does attract enemy attention, even if it cannot be hit. So I can throw him over there, and even though he's behind the wall technically, or should be behind the wall, if an enemy can't hit him, they will still focus on trying to hit the decoy, which helps us out greatly, of course. Okay, so we've unlocked Loki's third ability. I'm not going to use this on a player, but I will use it in one of my favorite methods in just a moment when we have a second of reprieve from these enemies. So Loki just gained his ability Switch Teleport. Switch Teleport is a fantastic ability. You just have to kind of know how it works. You can Switch Teleport with enemies, allies, and pretty much everything in between. The only thing I don't think you can Switch Teleport with is Sentinels, and that would be about it. Is your own personal Sentinels and maybe your Kavats. I don't know, I haven't tried with a Kavat, but I'm pretty sure you can't. But you can Switch Teleport with your decoy. So we're going to put our decoy over there and we're going to teleport with him. He should have gone where I was, but that's okay that he didn't. Effectively though, you teleported straight to him. And you can do it from a fair distance away. If we want to put him someplace where he's a fair distance away, we can show that off. But effectively, that Switch Teleport is massively useful for bypassing laser barricades and spy missions. You can throw your decoy down in a fair distance away, then Switch Teleport to it, effectively teleporting forward, preventing, the need to even worry about parkouring or using the movement system to get around the laser barricades, which is massively useful. You can also put your decoy down in areas behind glass walls, meaning you can literally put your decoy down right next to the end of a spy mission, negating pretty much the entirety of a spy mission thanks to Loki's abilities. So Loki's abilities are just fantastic overall. Plus, if you've seen any trailers for Warframe, you have seen that Loki can Switch Teleport his allies to get them out of danger, among other things. Don't use this ability to grief your allies, though. That's something that's considered frowned upon, unsurprisingly. You shouldn't ever need to Switch Teleport an ally unless they were about to die, for instance, and you were trying to help them out. Or perhaps if you're trying to outrun them, though that case would be one that, again, you might be considered griefing your fellows for. So Loki overall, while his abilities are not offensively focused, nor are they even truly defensively focused, they are massively useful when used in conjunction with each other and when used correctly. It should also be noted that Switch Teleport does also change or kind of stun the enemy. So if you Switch Teleport an enemy, it stuns them for a split second. Later on there will be enemies that can use Switch Teleport against us, so you'll kind of see how it stuns you for just a split second. So if you're fighting a tough enemy, you can Switch Teleport with it and effectively stun it for a second, so you don't have to deal with its abilities. Just another minor thing, a lot of Loki's abilities tend to have lots of different uses. When you first get your hands on Loki, you might think him very weak in usage, but combined with the abilities that I just showed previously and his final ability, which I will hope to show off as soon as we get it, you will see that he's truthfully a fantastic Warframe to take in just about any mission, regardless. As long as you have a good weapon on you, you can definitely take him to even some of the tougher missions relatively easily. And he's definitely what I would call a fan favorite for a lot of those searching for a roguish Warframe, or a Warframe very similar to the invisibility using Warframes, or stealth Warframes. Just gonna cut through here. Let's see, how much time do we have left? 3 minutes? Not super long. Looks like we're definitely gonna at least get him maybe up to rank 10. We'll throw down our decoy. Throw up our invisibility, so we're nowhere to be found. We can throw our decoy over here instead, so he's kind of guarded. That way the enemies will have to run to him. They'll be distracted. I don't know why I can't destroy this guy here. Is he... Oh, there's just a little bit of lag, I guess. We do have a ping that is quite high. You might notice in our lower left of the screen we have a ping of about 300 milliseconds, which is far above even standard for me. So we're probably lagging a lot more than it looks like here. We're still able to take these guys down fairly easy. I'd really love it if we could have a different... Forgive me if you heard any beeping in the background there. That was just my alarm for the video length. I would really love it if we could have a different weapon, like combo, on our polearm here, because I really do quite like the reach of polearms. You can see that we can hit enemies from pretty far away with our good old orthos, and it's a shame that we just have such a terrible combo for it, that it slows us down as much as it does. But we have to make do sometimes. Let's kill this guy, and he's dead. I'll run through, kill this thing. Thankfully our polearm, even though its combo isn't great, it does do enough damage to take these guys out simply. If we weren't able to do enough damage to these guys, that would be pretty much making us useless in the long run. We'd be overall of use to just about nobody. Oh, I should also note that during these anniversary missions, as you might have seen already, a lot of the enemies are extremist enemies, so just be aware of that. A lot of the enemies, very dangerous if you're not prepared for that, and you don't kind of understand how extremists work. Thankfully, they're not sending a lot of energy leech extremists at us, just mostly arson and Arctic. Oh, here's an energy leech, just as I state them. Just as I talk about them, there appears one. Okay. Okay. Alright. So let's see, we gotta find some more enemies.
Dreams. I have for you a tale of triumph over adversity.
I think that may give us enough
to their truest self.
Nightwave reputations to get our first rank of Nightwave, if I'm not mistaken. Not that that's a massive achievement, I'm sure, for a lot of people who've made it quite far through the Nightwave event, but for us that's good enough for the time being. Throw in our decoy, go to town. Okay. It could just be the latency, but it seems our decoy is not really distracting enemies super well here. Maybe they're focused on something else. Who knows? Could also just be the short duration and the latency combined also is causing problems. We'll see. Hopefully, I'm hoping the next mission will be less laggy and we'll have fewer issues with latency, so we'll be able to show off these abilities a little bit better. But maybe that's a far and a long hope. Only about 20 seconds left in this mission. We'll do the next two missions, and I don't think the next two missions are going to be anything super difficult. I think one of them's a defense, if I'm not mistaken. I think another one's a mobile defense as well. Oh, that's a bombard. Thankfully we do enough damage to be able to take him down at this point. Let's see, any other enemies around? Doesn't look like it. Maybe this guy over here's got some? Yes, he does. 2, 1.
When you are ready,
okay, so we can go to extraction now.
Our
Let's
operative
head
is
out.
making progress. This will help our cause.
So of course, in a time like this, when you're rushing to the end of a mission, your switch teleport ability is actually massively useful, because you can switch teleport with some enemies that are closer towards your objective, of course. So switch teleport is a fantastic movement ability just all around. And we're here. So we should have the rest of our group arrive here soon. Oh, another thing I should note is that Loki, as a Warframe, has one of the fastest movement speeds, or like standard walking speeds, of any of the Warframes. So that does help a lot when you're trying to parkour to get where you're going. Loki's toolkit was pretty much entirely designed around the idea of spy missions, but it is massively useful for other things as well. Extracting in 6, 5. Okay,
Another job well executed.
and there we are. So we got to Loki rank 13. I think that gets us Radial Disarm, if I'm not mistaken. But it definitely gets us our Sandana. Oh, and our Orthos is up to rank 29. Not bad. So one more rank for our Orthos and we'll be able to swap it out with something else. Could potentially swap it out for our Dextakara, but I don't think we'll truly need that. We'll see.
Operator, messages have arrived in your inbox.
So we've got our Sandana. There's the message for it, of course. Oh, excuse me, a little bit of burp there. Alright. So, next mission on the list, I guess, will be Dexiberus. Let's see. Interception is the next one, and Rescue is the final one. Okay. Neither of those should take super long. May only use primary weapons when we're trying to get our Dexiberus, so that's okay. We'll be using the Vectis. Loki with a sniper rifle just seems kind of fitting in my eyes. The silent assassin sort of playstyle is not a bad one in any way. Okay, let's run over and grab another tower.
The
We'll
enemy
take this
have
one for the
taken a
time being.
tower. You must recapture it.
We'll allow our allies to kind of hold down their towers. We'll focus on this tower unless we need to worry about another one. So we do have our final ability, Radial Disarm. See, I'll show off the abilities here with our new ability screen, which they just announced a while back. We've got Decoy, Invisibility, Switch Teleport, and lastly Radial Disarm. So Radial Disarm kind of sends out a wave which disarms enemies and forces them to use their melee weapons. It does not disarm their melee weapons, making them unable to attack.
We have lost control of a
But
tower.
if you've played Warframe long enough, you understand that the infected tend to be the easiest enemies to deal with because they're melee enemies. So forcing the Grineer and the Corpus to become melee enemies is a fantastic ability in and of its own right. I'd be half tempted to go help those two out, but I don't think they really need it. And from the looks of it, we actually have a Sauron on our side, so...
The enemy have captured a tower.
Okay. Maybe they do actually need it. Whoa. We'll go invisible here, pop that guy, pop this guy. Let's use our Radial Disarm. So now you can see he swapped to his melee weapon. He can't do anything but melee. I'm going to try and hold down this fort over here and prevent them from taking both of the towers
We are
on this side.
dominating. Keep it up.
Where is... oh. Dead. Okay. You might have heard a lot of Grineer death screams just a second ago. That was because Sauron used her ability. As you can see, it just decimates entire maps. If you're looking for a fantastic AoE farming Warframe, Sauron is most certainly a good choice. But sometimes that's not always what you're looking for in Warframe. Sometimes it's about the fun of using a good set of weapons. So, never doubt your capabilities there. Might be half worth it for us to swap from using Vitality to Stretch instead, so we can get a little bit more range on our abilities. Stretch is a good good mod to have on Loki, as it helps out massively with pretty much all of his abilities. You can send your Decoy further, you can send your Switch Teleport further, your Radial Disarm goes further. The only one, of course, that it doesn't assist is Invisibility,
We
which,
cannot allow the
as I
enemy
stated,
to learn of our
you have to
espionage.
focus on
Eliminate the remaining
duration to
enemy
make that a little bit
personnel.
better. But yeah, that's pretty much a good summary of all of Loki's abilities. Nothing super surprising, and thankfully we only have to do 2 rounds to complete this interception. There we are. First round completed. We'll start the second
Try
round here.
and capture another signal. Be careful, though. The enemy has surely rallied stronger reinforcements.
Not much else I could really say about Loki. aside from maybe just a little little tidbit for those who kind of wanted to know, when Warframe originally began, instead of Excalibur, Mag, and Volt, I believe the original 3 starter Warframes that you could choose from were Excalibur, Loki,
Tower
and
captured.
Mag.
Beginning stream decode now.
So Volt, I don't believe, was originally one of the Warframes that you could choose to kind of get, but he is now.
We have control of all
And
4
I think
towers.
honestly he's a fantastic starter compared to the other 2. While Meg, as I've seen lately, has gotten buffed to the point where she is as effective. So you can definitely count on that. If you needed a good Warframe, Meg is now considered quite good, thanks to some of her abilities. Though I still find a lot of players who use her tend to go down a lot, so she is still quite squishy, or susceptible to large amounts of damage. Not to say that that's a massive downfall for certain Warframes, though. It most certainly is not. Let's see. Pop that guy. Yeah, not a whole lot here, thanks to Saren. Saren's pretty much clearing the map, so we don't have to worry about a lot of the enemies. Although there are some out of her reach, which we may have to worry about. Her range is not infinite, of course, but it is quite large. I'm sure if you've been playing the game long enough, you kind of understand that Sarens are quite a popular Warframe thanks to their abilities. Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot else I could really talk about for Loki, though. Definitely a crowd favorite. Oh, I guess I could talk about one of the most famous jokes in Warframe is the Loki Master Race. For a period of time in Warframe's infancy, Loki was truly the absolute best Warframe. Overall, he was one of the few Warframes that could survive even endgame content easily. Not many Warframes could do such a thing. It was mostly in thanks to his invisibility and radial disarm. Combine the two, and effectively you have a Warframe that can disarm all enemies, prevent enemies from using anything but their melee weapons, and being, untargetable by being untargetable by attacks, meaning that he could pretty much just walk up to enemies. They wouldn't be able to do anything about it, even bombards and napalms, thanks to his radial disarm. Because, as you can imagine, bombards and napalms are pretty much the most dangerous enemies in Warframe. So if you can avoid their attacks or disarm them, that makes it much easier to deal with your enemies. We're just going to run through here really quickly. We don't need to, but we want to collect all these resources that have been left by all the enemies that have been killed over here.
Message to Colonel.
All right.
Leave none alive.
Fantastic. We even managed to get a new mod, Hellfire, which will give us fire on our weapon. And yeah, cleared them all out. So I think that's the end of this mission. The next mission will be Rescue, and Rescue tends to go quite quickly, so we'll be able to finish that quickly. This is pretty much just the Anniversary events. This is kind of all that the Anniversary gives you, but it's still very nice to have.
Not only have we decoded the enemy transmissions, we have
just
also
the
disrupted
weapon
their
slots alone can be
communications.
massively useful if you're new to the game, and you need more weapon slots to be able to hold nice weapons, or just the nice weapons themselves, such as the Dexibarus and the Furus,
Check your inbox, operator. Maybe
which we will be
orders
showing
from
off probably in the next episode. We'll be showing off the Dex weapons. You can see the message right here. And there we go. Oh, we should probably see what we got from the Nightwave, since we did complete that.
An ice night in Neptune dreamers. Hold yours close and true. And hey, if you're between stops, Nora knows that mood. But our wolf, he's not alone tonight. Add this with me. The Howler breaks out of Saturn 6. But get this. The howling doesn't stop. Someone else takes to singing that cruel song. The wolf knows why, and it called him back to the scene of the crime. Warden Garn's little side business. Selling Grenier lemons for a corpus squeeze. So freedom's got no hold on the wolf, does it? No. It's the sisters and brothers from the joint that matter to him. The pack. We both know what happens next. When a wolf finds its pack, they hunt.
A little bit of more exposition there for the Wolf of Saturn 6.
Nora is all
seems
about
we didn't actually have
incentivizing.
enough to get the first rank. We'll have to get at least 2,000 more, but that's alright.
Till then.
It's not massively needed that we need to get those at this time, so we'll just skip over it. And we'll be moving on to our next item that we can get. So we did get those 3, we just have the last 2 that we can do. The Dex Takara, and I entirely forgot about the Dex Excalibur skin. Dex Excalibur skin is most certainly my favorite Excalibur skin, but not necessarily necessary. We'll grab it, I think, as long as it's not a defense mission. Otherwise, I'll grab it in between parts. Because you can pretty much see the way these missions are. They're nothing massively unique. I don't think we haven't seen any of this stuff before.
The infestation has trapped our operative in an emergency airlock.
I'm
Find
not
and
sure
free the captive.
if we've seen this tile set before. This is the Eris tile set, which is kind of Corpus Derelicts infected with infestation. Kind of spooky stuff, but not super difficult. And I don't think we'll have any problems taking down the enemies, even though we're only a Loki. Surprised we haven't got another group to go with us, but then again, I suppose rescue is also fairly simple.
Deliberately captured our operative. This sort of behavior is highly unusual.
Infested rescue is kind of strange. You kind of see it here as we're going through, heading towards where we need to be. Let's open this door.
Multiple biosignatures detected. We've got infested incoming.
We'll see if we can't open this door. We
Lasers are
can't.
linked to the poison tumor
Okay.
nodes growing on the airlocks.
So you can
Contact
kind of
with
see
the lasers will put our operative in immediate
if I'm
peril.
able to. No,
Bypass
not this one.
complete. You may proceed.
But
You set off the laser.
seems
the
not.
infestation
Oh,
is
that's a shame.
responding by gassing our operative. Get them out of there immediately.
so if you touch the lasers, of course the alarm goes off. It's best not to touch the lasers, but it seems we don't have any luck with that. So we'll have to jump around.
You found the operative.
Oh,
Now bring
simple.
them home.
Okay. There are, of course, also radiation clouds. Be aware of those. Those are something you'll encounter a lot on Eris in some of the missions that you'll see. Our major things are, oh dear, avoiding them. Note that those clouds, I think these ones are actually not radiation but magnetic, which means that you lose all energy, lose shields, I believe, and that's not great for a lot of Warframes, especially for instance of mag. But they also can be radiation. I've seen them before, and radiation is probably one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous, proc that you can have hit you, as it will allow your teammates' abilities to damage you. And a great example of the problem there, of course, would be a Saren. Considering her abilities hit a wide area, a Saren, you get hit by a radiation proc, and a Saren uses her ability, you're pretty much out of luck because you just got hit by that ability too and were taken down instantly. Alright, get out of here. I would love to have shown off our abilities a little bit more in depth there, but our decoy just really isn't able to be placed very far away. Though that did give us max rank on our Orthos, which is kind of nice. So we can swap that out for something else, which we will be doing. As stated previously, the Orthos is no longer as good as it used to be thanks to the melee reworks. We can, of course, if we wanted to in the future, get another Orthos by crafting it the same way we crafted
Ordis
this
has
one.
received messages for the operator. No,
But
I have not
at the current
read
time and
them.
place, that's not massively necessary. So we'll grab the last mission we have. It is a defense. Do I want to do a defense? You know what? I did commit to doing all of these missions, so I think we will. Yeah, let's just jump in. I don't think it'll be a big problem for us. Defenses usually aren't that long. I'm just hoping it's not going to be like 20 waves. I don't think it is. I think it's only like 10 that you have to do, if I remember correctly. It's still a good amount of time, but should be relatively easy to do. Oh, and we have all of our weapons, so it's 15 waves. Not horrible, but not the worst. And this is the most changed event, so with the Nightwave being a thing, we've got to defend our buddy here, thanks to all the things going on. And you can effectively see that we're fighting like Nightwave operatives, which are just a Nightwave Grineer. And we're defending our Bailiff, which I assume was probably one of the jailers of the Wolf. So it's kind of interesting that we're on the side of the kind of Grineer jailers here, as our history with the Grineer is not massively great, but sometimes that's just how it works. So it looks like we've got both a Limbo and a Saren. So Saren's kind of destroying all the enemies, and we're and the zone that you see is being created is a Limbo zone, or Limbo area. So looks like this ought to go fairly quickly thanks to the Saren. Shouldn't have any worries about how fast we're going to get done here. Enemies die before they can even leave the spawn points thanks to Saren. Especially on a map this small, it makes it fairly simple. Might be interesting to note that while Saren is a very good Warframe, I don't tend to use a Saren. I don't even believe I have a Saren on my other account, just because I don't really like that playstyle of press one button, win all the time. And when I do use that sort of playstyle, I tend to prefer Volt in that regard. But that's just a personal preference. Saren's, of course, far better when it comes to dealing with longer, drawn-out events and isn't as energy-intensive as Volt. So there are clear reasons why you choose Saren over Volt. Though Volt is actually fantastic in conjunction with Saren, as Saren's AoE abilities require a little bit of damage to go off. Typically she can provide that damage herself, but in conjunction with another Warframe that can provide a little bit of damage in a large area, such as Equinox or Volt, she just amplifies her abilities to the utmost. And, well, it's, as I stated, not my preferred playstyle, because Saren's a major AoE ability kind of amplifies damage versus actually doing most of the damage. It doesn't mean it's bad in any way, shape, or form. Saren is most certainly the queen of Sanctuary Onslaught, which I think I've shown off previously. I will definitely have a chance to show it off again later on. But Saren's a fantastic Warframe for that. Limbo's also kind of using his Cataclysm Zone to do damage to enemies. That's why he's kind of activated and canceling it so quickly. It's not massively useful for higher level of situations, but on lower level stuff it is quite useful, because he can do enough damage to kill most low level enemies kind of instantly. Though that's not a guarantee. Anything like a Napalm or a Bombard could very easily survive a Limbo Cataclysm. At one time, Limbo's Cataclysm used to do a hefty amount of damage, but that was very quickly changed. as that was not the intended use of Limbo's Cataclysm. Limbo's Cataclysm, by DE's definition, is mostly a crowd control ability, which, if you understand anything about kind of crowd control in Warframe, you know that it's not massively useful. And while I did fat finger this ability, I'm not necessarily sad that I used it. That was of course, our operator mode that we can charge up and use. I've only used it once before previously, but we can use it, of course, at any time once it's charged up. And now that it's on cooldown, we won't be able to use it for a good amount of time. It does a decent amount of damage, but honestly, unless you're really certain that you have a big group of enemies in front of you, it's mostly less useful than it's worth. Abilities we'll be able to gain later will be far more useful with our operator. Look at these guys. I'm not super upset that Limbo's doing what he's doing, but as you can see, as I'm trying to shoot certain enemies, that is causing problems. And that's because if we're in a zone and our enemies aren't in the zone, then we can't hit them. So just be aware that you may be causing problems for your allies if you do this sort of build. Not that that's, again, necessarily a problem. Just if you're asked politely to stop, be a good, polite individual and accept that, your teammates may not want to deal with your abilities and kind of have to work around you. Alright. So let's shoot those guys. Shoot all kitties. Bald hairless cats, and we're done with that. So we got 8 waves remaining. And I wasn't expecting this video to be this long, but that's okay. I did want to make sure that I saw all the events so you could see all the different things you gotta do to be able to complete it. And also seeing this new updated event is kind of nice. I didn't know that they had done this, so it's definitely very interesting to see. Alright. I don't think there's anything else I can really talk about. Looks like we also have... I don't know what that Warframe is. So we definitely got a Saren, a Limbo, and another Warframe. I don't know what the other Warframe is, because I haven't seen him use his abilities. Oh! It's an Avara. What a rare Warframe. So we've got both a Loki and an Avara. And Avara is pretty much the other standard stealth Warframe that most people would use. There's a third stealth Warframe, but he's not typically used for stealth missions such as spy. He's typically used in more of offensive capabilities. That would be Ash. Ash is a more offensive individual. Oh, crimes. I almost got killed there. Oh, I am getting murdered. I need to go invisible here. So, of course, Loki's fantastic for that very reason, is that you could go invisible to avoid any damage. Throw down decoys as well. Even dealing with enemies that would otherwise be able to kill you. Ignore most of what they're able to do. Okay. Let's see. Allies there are talking about the different modded stats of the Limbo. I've shown previously that you can see the percentage amount that you have on a Warframe in the Warframe modding area. So you can see how much percentage-wise, for instance, range and whatnot you have when you're in that screen. But you won't be able to see it while you're looking just at your abilities. Thankfully, this maniac is focused on our decoy, so he's not really able to do a lot to us. Oh, just throw up our decoy again. I don't know where my decoy just went. Is he in this door here? Nope, there he is. A little bit of lag. That's okay. I'm focusing on these maniacs because... Oh, that's a shame. Host migration. Hopefully we'll come back into it at the same point without lagging out. Host migration is infamous in Warframe for being very problematic, as it'll sometimes lag you out to the point where you're not able to continue. But I don't think we're having that issue here. Nope, doesn't look like it. Let's see, thrown on our decoy. Who did we lose? Looks like we lost our Saren. That's very unfortunate. We might actually have to try to protect our dude now. Where was that frickin' maniac? I know there was a maniac around here somewhere. Did he get killed? He might have gotten killed by something. So now we don't have our Saren. These waves are actually going to take a considerable amount more time, sadly. As we now actually have to go out of our way to kill the enemies. Which is a shame, but not the end of the world. I think we should be able to handle it as long as these maniacs aren't going to cause us too much problem. Gotta make sure to kill those maniacs because they will kind of teleport close to our defense objective and cause him some problems. Kill him fairly quickly. Be nice if our limbo were on top of our buddy here. But our limbo's kind of just running around. Not really focusing on our defense objective, which is kind of a shame. As limbo's kind of the best one to do that. It looks like our defense objective friend is following me. So your defense objective friend will typically follow one of the players. So we're going to bring him over into the center here. The center is kind of the best place for us to be. To allow us to focus on getting stuff done. Or more specifically, it'll allow us to kind of focus our attention on certain routes, and the center is kind of where the defense objective usually is in this map, on that kind of like elevator platform. So it'd be nice if he was more over there, but he's not. Looks like we got our Saren back, I think it is. I think I might have just pushed it. Oh, dear. Looks like we did indeed get our Saren back, yep. So that's nice. We've got Saren back, which means we don't have to worry about our defense objective as much anymore. I should probably turn that key off at some point. Remove that push to talk key. Crime race. I forget that it's even a thing anymore. Don't really need it while I'm doing these missions, of course, and I definitely don't need it to really talk to anybody in our mission. But I do need to worry about defending our objective still. As does our Saren. It's kind of unfortunate this guy's a melee attacker. If he wasn't a melee attacker, it'd be much easier to defend him because he just attacked from range. But of course he's got to be the big burly melee dude. Doesn't have a lot of HP either. He only has about 1,000 health. So enemies could foreseeably kill him relatively quickly if we let them. Which is indeed a problem. Not that we'd let them, but it is a problem. Okay. Alright. So, let's see. Our carrier's leveled up a good amount in just doing these missions, and our Loki's also leveled up a good amount in just doing these missions, which is quite nice. Both facts, of course, help us out greatly as we'll be progressing in the storyline. Our Loki will be instrumental when we're doing spies in the future, and any other mission we can kind of foreseeably see that would have an element of stealth to it, such as rescues, or some of the other ones as well. Crimes. So there are some unique enemies here that I've never seen before, I don't think. Of course, the Night Watch enemies are unique in their brand of Grineer, but there are many different types of Grineer, so that's not necessarily unique. Though the small melee butchers with shields, I've never seen those before. Perhaps they were used in other events, but I've yet to see them before previously. All the other enemies I have seen before, either out on the plains or in other missions. The Bailiff, of course, that we're protecting is a melee enemy that you would see a lot out on the plains. Alright. Though I think we're good with that, so we've got 4 more rounds? 5 more rounds. We're stuck on 5. I think my counter may be broken since the hoist migration. Sometimes your UI can bug out in Warframe and it won't read what wave you're on correctly. I think we might actually be closer than wave 5 because we've been at wave 5 for like the past few waves, I believe. So the mission didn't bug out. We are probably still progressing, but our counter has bugged out. So we're not able to fully tell what mission we're actually on, or what wave. Sadly. Hopefully this has been kind of a good showing of what Loki's capable of, though I know that it's not perfect in any way. There we go. Yeah, so we were actually on the last one.
Objective is secure.
And
Let's
we're done.
go home.
So that completes all of the anniversary events, including the updated Dex event, which is quite good. Not a whole lot else to really talk about.
Check your inbox, operator.
Maybe orders. Next time I'll probably show off the Sindana and all of that. I won't be able to show off the Excalibur Dex skin just because we don't have Excalibur, but there it is. And there we go. That completes the anniversary events. Next time we'll continue our way towards the Sedina and Eris junctions and kind of work toward it through the main story missions again. But until then, goodbye.